Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Intentional Improvement. We're here to intentionally improve your life by one conversation at a time. I've got a guest who is here to share her story, and it's a story of survival. It's a story of strength, and it's a story of faith. This woman I have in front of me has survived a cult, escaped it, and built a wonderful life on her own outside of it, and is still on her healing journey. I have with me Amanda Smith. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So you have a story that a lot of people are usually afraid to share, or they have shame around it because they were meant to feel shame about it. But you grew up in a cult. You married at a very young age. It was a forced marriage and just went through hell, and you escaped it.
Yeah.
So talk to us about how it all began.
My parents were born into the cult as well. I don't even think that they realized at the time. Now, different story. But I don't think they realized at the time that they were destroying our lives instead of helping. I think they truly thought they were doing what they had to do to get us all to heaven, which is, of course, the whole synopsis of cults. That's they're brainwashed in a sense, which is crazy because my dad is like such a strong man. Like his willpower was crazy. When he was dying, he went so far as to knowing we were never allowed to go to a doctor and get help no matter what happened. And two of my sisters died. They should have been fine if we took them to a doctor.
How old were they?
The first one was literally just born. My mom was in a coma when she was born. So she just was underdeveloped, almost full term, but just my mom was in a coma. I don't know how long she was in labor. I was only maybe 10 and a half or 11 at that time. So I didn't quite grasp everything, how that all happened. And then the second sister, by that point, she was really sick because the more she had babies, this was the 14th child born. So this would have been the 14th, and she was very unwell. You can imagine why. So when she was born, I think a month early, month and a half early, I can't remember. And when she was pregnant with her, she came to me and said, "Hey, Amanda, I'm pregnant again." And of course, there's just horrible news because we all know what happened with the previous one. And it's still traumatizing just because there was a lot that surrounded that too. But with the church and all of the things that were going on. But she was like, "I'm going to need your help." My other sisters were out of the home at this point, and it was born. And guess who had the baby? Me. She was still laying in a bed, completely out of it. I don't think she even knew she had the baby yet. And a couple people from the church were there. And I just remember walking away and going to take a shower, like after a certain time period of holding the baby and taking care of the baby, and they're trying to take care of her because she's just out of it. And get out of the shower and somebody's blocking the door, somebody else from the church. And I'm like, "What's going on?"
How old were you at this time?
I was 12. And she said, "You can't come in here right now." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And I didn't listen. I knew something was wrong, and I was responsible for the baby, and my mom's obviously not well. So I pushed my way past her, and I see the baby on the bed, and my dad standing over her, and I see a couple of my siblings to the right, and I walked over, and I'm like, "What's going on? What's wrong?" And she ended up taking her last breaths, and so more than likely, we don't know, but maybe her lungs weren't quite developed, but she would have been fine. Had any single one of us known that we could have called the paramedics, she would have been fine.
Yeah.
She would have been fine.
So it was a very restricted lifestyle that you had. Were you guys like on a compound?
No, we lived in Emmett, Idaho. And the crazy thing is, like, we had outside people a little bit because we worked on the farm. We had people come and people would buy our fruit and vegetables and things like that. But I didn't go to school, so I was very limited to that kind of contact. Like, I couldn't tell people how old I was because they were afraid that I'd get told on. So they had to act like I was 18. I don't know how I looked 18, but people thought I was of age. And I worked I think I woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning and worked until about 3 or 4 in the morning to do pastries and pies and stuff. And then I woke back up after going to bed at around 10 and then would go back to the orchard and work at the little cafe we had and do sandwiches and whatnots. So we still had that kind of outside resources. So it wasn't a compound. It was just initially earlier in the life when the first baby died, we actually lived in a mobile home, 4 bedrooms, and I shared a room with 5 brothers.
Wow.
And then my other siblings had a room, and my parents were always in there with whatever baby was there, because there was always baby,
Yeah.
always. So this time we moved to Emmett, and my parents were able to subdivide the home with the 4 bedrooms and was able to get money and bought a bigger home and an orchard. And we all worked in the orchard.
And none of you guys went to school?
The older kids did for a while, but once we moved there, no.
Okay. So once you moved to Emmett, Idaho, you guys all stopped going to school?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think I vaguely remember one of my younger brothers, because I remember being jealous, like why he got to go to school. But I think it was after things happened and after me getting married. And I don't know if my mom just couldn't take care of some of the kids anymore or what. I just remember thinking, that's not fair, because I wanted to go to school. I wanted to have a life. And all I had to do was work.
Yeah, wow. So obviously the beginning of life was difficult. A lot of things just didn't make sense to you, and they couldn't make sense, and you knew there was something better for you out there.
Yeah.
I know that you ended up, it was like a forced marriage, getting married very young.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Gosh, that was very hard. I think I cried myself to sleep most nights, actually, because it was like a Friday night that this man knew he wanted me, chased me pretty hard.
And you always felt uncomfortable around him.
Yeah, but at the same time, in the cold, when he would do things to me, he would do things to me, and my dad, I felt like I wasn't protected. When I brought it to my dad, asking him, like, this person will not leave me alone. He would come to the roof of our house in the middle of the night and knock on my window and make me come down. And if I didn't do those things, he was going to tell them things to get me kicked out, because that's what the cult did. And you were shunned forever, right? And you lose everything.
And that's all you knew.
That's all I knew. And when I did go to my dad, without giving all the details, I think it was like my way of testing. But my dad wasn't around a whole lot either. He worked throughout the week out of town. And so he would only come home on the weekends. And so my mom, who obviously wasn't well a lot of the time, we were going around to do whatever we did, and then he'd punish us all on the weekends for whatever it was, right? I didn't have that bond, I guess I could say. I always yearned for it. I would do anything. Like, I'd rub my dad's feet, I would rub his head, and I wanted the attention I felt like he gave to the boys. He always spent time with the boys when he would come home, but I felt like I was very unseen. But at the time, I didn't know that was pretty normal, right? Like, we're girls. We're not the head of households or going to be the head of households. We're not the ones that can make decisions. So I tested it when I could, but otherwise I would hide it. Like, when he would call the house and I'd hear the phone ring, I would run to the phone, because I knew if I didn't answer that phone, he'd call over and over and over again. And so I had to catch it off guard, or catch it before my parents would get mad, and when he was home. And so he'd come on the roof, and so one day I was in the garage, and he's at my house, and being a man from, I shouldn't say in the church, but I think he was 19 at the time, 19 or 20, I can't remember. And this was probably a few months prior to us having to get married. And my dad came out. I just remember like begging him to leave, because I couldn't walk back into the house without him coming into the house and just following me. And basically I couldn't get away from him unless I did what he wanted me to do, basically. So very handsy, doing things, and I'm crying. My dad comes out to the garage, and I'm begging him, like, Dad, he will not leave me alone. I have asked him, and he sees I'm in tears, and he just laughs it off. And says, all right, dude, time to go. Leave her alone. And I'm like, okay, I can see how much I'm going to be protected. So I never felt like I could get that protection, and that's just learned over time, right? I've seen, at this point now, 2 sisters die. And I already feel like men matter more. My brothers mattered more. I felt like I had the power to stop it. And so one night, my dad asks him to take me to go find my brothers in Emmett, it's a small town. And instead, he takes me to a creek. And that night, he was caught by the police. But with a small town, and me being so young, because I had just turned 16, the police call my parents, and that night, because I lost my innocence, that was a Friday night. I had to marry him Monday morning, and they kicked me out that same night as well.
Yeah, and your innocence was taken from you. Yeah, it was not
But they
willingly.
didn't see it that way. Yeah. So I got married Monday morning. They weren't even there. They signed a paper at the courthouse before I even got there. And from that night on, I don't even think like my past traumas, by that point, I didn't even recognize them as traumas anyway at that time. But it was rough. It was rough because now I've been thrown into this man's hands.
What was going through your mind as it's
Ooh.
all transpiring and you're realizing this is now my new life?
Not being able to even go to school. Oh, gosh. I don't think I even knew what to think. You know what I mean? I am now in this spot where my parents are coming to me and saying, we just learned that this is what was going on. And I think I was in shock more than anything because I did everything for this family. Like the amount of laundry, the dishes, the waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning to cook for the restaurant, the cafe, and getting up and working there during the day every single day. I didn't have a childhood. So I guess the only lucky part about that is I didn't know how to be a child. So now I'm being thrust into a marriage. I just really think I was in shock. I remember them coming to me and I remember them saying, go grab a few things and you're going to be leaving. And that was my whole life. I didn't know anything other than that. And so I don't even remember what I grabbed. I think I was just so distraught. I couldn't believe it was happening, honestly. And that man drove me to his parents' house. And now he had me. So Monday morning, they took me. And I don't even know why his parents were okay with this. They weren't even in the cult. So I have no idea what in the world. They took me to the courthouse Monday morning. And I had to marry him. But yeah, there was a lot of tears. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of anger, I think. But it couldn't really show. It started to come out later, but when I look back now, I'm like, yeah, I could see why I did that or that, because I just didn't know. I didn't know all the trauma was even being created. This is just your life. This is
Because
all
you
you
were
know.
in it.
And this is what I have to do to get to heaven. Really, even though my parents disowned me, part of the church didn't feel the same way. They just said, as long as you marry him, then you can earn your way back, basically. So I still had some relationship with some of the church, even though we all went to the same church still, which is crazy and was so difficult for me because to see at this point, because this was several years after the baby had died, she had another baby who I raised up until that day. He called me mom. My mom was still very sick. So it was really hard to go to church and see him, and he'd bawl his face off, and I'd be bawling because he'd be begging for me. And that was really hard. But then I had my own baby because his mom actually did try to take me and get birth control, and my husband threw them in the toilet.
And how many kids did you have with him?
3.
3 kids. What was life like going through this marriage? 3 kids with him, and let's talk about that and then how you got out of the cult.
Oh, so yeah, 3 kids. You just got to keep moving on. At that point, I still didn't know about getting out. Like, how would that even look, even though I tried? There was a couple of times I tried to leave. So the first time, he got caught by the police pushing me up against a wall outside of, I don't remember, somewhere in Idaho. I can't remember where we were. I was an angry person. I didn't love him. So that was really hard, even though I said, I love you. And I couldn't imagine myself without him because that's all I knew. That's all I had. I didn't have anybody else. I had some of the church people, but I was stuck there. I would tell the church people, elders at the church, and be like, hey, I'm being abused. He'll choke me. He'll put pillows over my face. He'll do all these things. And they didn't care. So I just didn't do anything anymore. I just kept living and kept moving forward. And my kids were my focus. What helped too, though, when my second daughter was born, I think she was 1 or 2. I can't remember. I just know I was 19. I was 19. I signed up to go get a high school diploma. And I'm sure everybody thought I was crazy, but that was also the first part of my pivotal movements in learning outside things, right?
Mm-hmm. Were you self-educated? Self-taught?
Prior to that, yeah. They said they homeschooled us, but we didn't really get any homeschooling.
Okay.
So I was 4th grade was my last actual school, and then home.
Okay.
And then when my daughter was born, I was 19. I can't remember. She must have been 2, I guess, if I was 19, somewhere around there. And I signed up for this school called SISM. And it was a school that was outside the school zone, but it was still associated with the high school. And that school was for teen girls who had kids young. My situation was a little different, so I was the oldest ones there. So at first they told me, hey, listen, you're too old. We can't let you in. I'm like, what do you mean I'm too old? Just give me a chance. And they said, do you realize you're not allowed, which I didn't know any of this, right? You're not allowed to go to school past 21, and you have no high school credits. So how are you going to graduate? Why would you even want to come try this? You have to have 4 years of high school credits. I had no idea what that looked like, no idea what a credit was, honestly. But I begged them. I was like, just give me a chance.
And you just went to work.
Just give me a chance. 2 weeks after school started, they still told me no. 2 weeks after school started, they called me. And they said, hey, listen, we're going to give you a chance. Can you start tomorrow? And I'm like, yeah, I can. I started going to school. And part of your credits were daycare because everybody had kids there. I had 2. I was one of the oldest. And they really did help me. Like, they helped me because I didn't know how I was going to get 4 years of credits, but they would sit with me and be like, okay, you got to do this. You've got to go to night school. You got to go to summer school. And they would do extra work with me because I literally did
And
know
your
what I was
last level of
doing.
education was 4th grade.
Yes.
Okay. All
Yes.
right.
So looking back, like now I can see when people say, you're so strong. I'm like, I don't feel that way. Never did.
But you are.
But yeah, I guess, yes. The effort I put in the first year, I had a 4.0. And I don't think that they were just being kind. Yeah, I know I could have done better on writing, but I literally did the best I could. They saw how many hours I was putting in. They saw how hard I worked. I wasn't caught up in all the catty, young, teenage drama stuff. Most of those girls looked up to me and they were like, how are you doing this? I was prom queen the first year at that school. Not a big deal. It was like 50 girls, 60 girls. But they looked up to me. And I think that helped too because that was the first time in my life that people looked at me for help. They were in these positions, probably not on purpose either.
So would you say that you found the first bit of your healing in this school?
Yeah, I think so. And the people that believed in me, these teachers literally believed in what I could do for the first time. Otherwise, I don't think I could have done it. But that meant a lot, and I sure probably couldn't have done it without them. I left for the first time my husband after that first year.
You left him?
For the first time. That didn't stay that way, but
Okay.
I tried leaving. And when he went to jail, when the people called the police, and he pushed me against the wall, and they caught it on camera because people called the police first. Then cops pulled up and saw him do it on camera. So that was my first kind of attempt. There's the bit of, oh, you're going to go to hell. Yeah, he technically is not allowed to be in your home. So that was like a few days. And he would just be like, babe, it's okay. Never going to happen again, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let him back in. And it's crazy because I remember getting pulled over. I was in the front seat and the police said, isn't that your wife? And I see you're not allowed to be with her. And then he somehow talked it away. No big deal. And so again, I was like, all right, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big
It was
of a
all
deal.
normal to you.
Yeah. So I did that first year, having that exposure, I left or tried to leave. I moved out of our house. I got my own place even and everything. I don't know how. I don't even remember. Oh, I started working at a bar at nighttime. So I'd go to school during the day, went to night school, and then I started working at a bar. Not a good idea for me, by the way. I had no self-worth. I didn't know who I was. I'm just raising these 2 kids, doing the best I can, pretty much by myself, because when people like that don't have any control over you, they're not helping you. He didn't see the kids. Unless I was there when he would pick them up, he wouldn't pick them up.
And you were the kid's only protector.
Yeah. So he showed up and my friends were there because I had 2 of my girlfriends lived with me as well. One was going to the same school and I met her at one of the night schools. So she had a job. So we all 3 lived together. Actually, my cousin lived with me as well. And so if he'd come to pick up the kids and if I wasn't there, he wasn't taking them. Like it was all about control. Still to that point. And I was just trying to figure myself out, but it was really difficult. And then so I had a whole nother year of school left because I could only go to school for 2 years. And I soaked myself into it, but also I was very busy. I was exhausted, but I was determined. I was going to get my high school diploma.
How old were you when you got your diploma?
21.
21.
Exactly. I was just turned 21. So I was able to do it. I did all 4 years of credits. But that was the downside, though. I think I was so exhausted and I don't know who I really was still. I'm just figuring it out. he got a job offer out of state, which ultimately ended up being a good thing because I was able to fully leave and be where I'm at. But I was scared. I graduated and he told me, I'm leaving. You're never going to have anything. My family still wasn't talking to me. I had no help with them. Mm-hmm. Some of the church was still involved with my life. But he came to me multiple times, tried to get back with me. And he was like, I'm leaving this date. You're with me or you're not with me. I don't care. I'm never seeing you or the kids again. And you're going to go to hell. And you're going to... Did the whole...
Yeah.
The guilt and the... Everything he could, basically. And for me, I was like, I don't have my family. How am I going to raise these kids by myself forever? I just now finished school. And I don't have a career. Not that I would have at that time, but I just was so lost. So I went. Why? I have no idea. I could have stayed there and probably built myself. I just don't think I had any confidence in myself
At
yet,
this time, you were still beat down.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And all I knew was him, really. And so even though it was abusive and it was horrible, I didn't love him. It's all I have known since I was 16. And I still didn't have family. My mom wasn't even there. Both my kids were born at home. At that point, I hadn't had my third yet. She wasn't even allowed to come be with me in my bedroom while I'm laboring and having a child. So I went. Mm-hmm. Still cried myself to sleep many of these nights. But yeah.
So you guys go to a new state.
Yeah.
And you have your third child. When was it that you fully left the cult?
Leaving him was me fully leaving the cult because I still had some of those associations no matter what, even though my parents still, they're in, but not to us. Like my dad was super strict. Even though these people in the church believe you may be okay, like you're earning your way back. Once you lost your innocence and you weren't married to that person, you're going to hell, like forever. Mm-hmm. No changing that for him in his mind. And so being in Arkansas, which is where we went, I think it was like the next day we were there, we ended up stopping at a church. I don't even remember why. I have no clue. It's very abnormal for us to have even stopped at a church. But it was close by to where we were looking to live, and we just stopped in there. We already had mapped out where the cult church is, which was 2.5 hours away. Thank goodness, really. And I remember him planning, okay, we need to be able to get to that church, but let's just stop here. Maybe we meet a few people that could help us out because we didn't know anything about Arkansas. We just literally there and never been there. Internet maybe was still somewhat new to me. Researching, no ChatGPT, because that's how I do all my itineraries now. I didn't have any of that. So we stopped there and there was people at the church and they welcomed us in. They didn't know anything about me or our story. And they were very pivotal. That's the word, pivotal, of getting me out of the cult with a long process. We were there for 7 years.
After they learned your story?
Through the first while, they started to learn my story. But from the day we got there, I was there for 7 years before I left. Okay. And when I left him, I left pretty much, made my exit to get out of Arkansas as well. I could have stayed. There was great people there. I wanted to be back on the West Coast, and so I worked towards that. But
so these people at the church, they helped you get out of the cult.
Yeah.
And once you were out, what happened?
First, before that, I really had to learn who the true God was, and that's kind of part of that piece of that story. They were the people that showed me what true love was through Jesus and what grace looked like, because I don't think I had any grace for myself. And that was a long process because I was still healing, even though I was still with him. So I really couldn't heal. A lot of my tears, a lot of going to them, begging, like, how do I love this man that I'm supposed to stay with? Because they ultimately, that was their first goal, is we have to keep a marriage together. They weren't immediately saying, you need to get out of here. It was, let us help you get through this and help fix you two. And he did get better. The abuse got better. But at the end of the day, we weren't meant to be together. And God didn't want me stuck in that story. That's how I feel. I'm sure other people will say God never wants to destroy a marriage, but there was too much abuse. There was too much trauma. There was too much everything. Mm-hmm. And so that had to happen first. Getting me to the point to getting out was just those pieces. And I just remember a lot of people, including people at the church. My neighbor, she was very instrumental on helping me as well. Like I would walk across the street when he was gone and just cry. And there was still that guilt with me too. You're stuck in your brain to think, if I do this, I really am going to hell forever. A lot of people already think it. You're reeling with that and trying to process what's true, what's not. But you still don't know for sure. God's not coming to really tell me, even though I'm learning who God really is, you still have those fears of, if I fail, the church is right. I am going to hell. They're right. I'm doomed. Nothing good is going to happen in my life. So she would like talk me through stuff. And I had to see for myself if anything would really change with my husband, because we tried and tried. Church helped, counseled. And for 3 months, I watched him online and what he was doing online. And it wasn't all about that. There was all of my other traumas that we were dealing with, and not physical abuse so much anymore. It was more mental, and says you drove this many miles. You didn't go to the store, just to the store. I'm like, yeah, I did, whatever. Things like that. And so for 3 months, I watched him online, and I won't share all of those things, but I would take it to my neighbor and just hold that inside until one day, with the help of the people that were close to me and telling them what was going on and what he was doing, they were like, okay, it's time. Like, you're the only person that can do this. You're the only person. And I was still so scared, even though I knew nothing was ever going to change. Nothing was going to change. And so I took him to a park because I knew he'd get angry and I knew it might be bad. And I had the kids with me. And I said, I'm leaving. And he looked at me and laughed, because I'd already tried to leave before. And I'd always end up back. And he said, you're not going anywhere. And I'm like, no, for real. It's real this time. I'm leaving. And I did tell him what I found on the computer. The women, I told him things that he wouldn't have known I would have known. I was like, I've been watching you for 3 months. 3 months. And I'm done. I'm done believing you. I'm done being this person. And I'm leaving. I'm taking the kids and I'm leaving. And I believe, my daughter told me this the other day. I didn't remember this. She said, we did go back to the house. I'm like, we did? And she's like, yeah, we went back to the house, and it must have just been to grab some clothes, because I didn't take anything. I left everything, left the house. We took clothes, and that's it. Whatever you guys picked up, I didn't even remember going back to the house. I thought we had just left from there. And I already had my escape plan. I went to a family member's from church, and that's where we stayed until I could get my own apartment, my own townhouse. And I never went back.
Never went back. Okay. Let's talk about what transpired between now you have your new apartment and now you're just trying to figure out life. You're just trying to balance your life. And then when did you start to get on this journey of healing?
I don't think it was until I moved here, honestly. And I went from there to California for 7 years and then moved here. I didn't realize how much trauma I actually had. I would always look at other people's stories and say, oh, their story's so much worse than mine.
Because you rationalized yours.
I would rationalize it. And the people that did these things, they didn't know any better. And there's children being beaten and abused every single day. And I had it better than that, right? So I would rationalize those things, not knowing it. I also didn't want to be the victim. And even though I was, and I didn't feel like my story mattered. And I also hadn't heard a lot of people at that time. I didn't realize how much it was happening. Like, I'd only hear the horror stories. That's why I feel like I would put myself down here, be like, my story doesn't really matter. It was not a big deal. I just got to get over it, and I got to figure out how to move on. So going from leaving, and it took me a while. When I left him, got a townhouse, I got a job. One of my good friends there got me a job. And then I think it was about a year, because my son was 2. He was born in 2005. My son was 2, I believe, just after 2 when I moved to California, and I was seeing somebody. And so I moved to California, where he was from, and then lived there for 7 years. And still, I didn't really address any of that yet.
You just suppressed it.
I suppressed it all. Yeah, there was definitely times I found myself, I pretended to be happy. I pretended, because I needed to show everybody in my life that I was fine. I'm not going to hell. I left him. I'm not going to hell. My life is great. So I pretended. I wasn't happy inside. I was suppressed. I still was learning what color I liked, like literally. I didn't even know what color I liked. Not until living here. That's when I started realizing, wow, I have a lot of learning to do about myself and what trauma looks like and all of that. It wasn't until I learned what trauma does to you, why I made decisions I made once I moved here, that I was not healed.
What does trauma do to someone and the decision making?
Gosh, it really shapes your idea about yourself, number one. Different traumas create different decision making for certain people. I remember times where I was so desperate just for somebody to accept me. It didn't even matter who it was. Like, I just needed acceptance. There's times I allowed, for example, my daughter's father, my fourth child, just berate me because I was used to it. I would be berated all the time. My husband from the cult would tell me, no wonder your parents didn't want you. You're this, you're that. Nobody will want you. All of those things. And so then going back into that, after I felt like, oh, I'm out of the cult, I don't cry about it as much, I'm healed, I'm fine. Oh, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. All of these things started coming up in me when I'm now in a different situation, because unless you heal those things, you find the same thing just in a different person at a different time. And I feel like I was a target. It was very clear that I was a very unhealthy human because I didn't heal any of those things. I didn't exude strength, even though people would tell me, you're so strong. I didn't exude that at all. I did not stand up for myself, ever. I was a doormat. But I know I had it in me somewhere because I had a really good friend. And I'll never forget this because I think of it often. You know, we were both in relationships, but he told me one time, he said, you know why I could never date you? And I was like, why? Because we study all the time and we did Tough Mudder together. He was a really good friend to me and helped me through all of my math in college because I had to go to college after that or during that time period in California. He said, you're not submissive enough. That's it. You're not submissive enough. And in my head, I was flabbergasted because I knew my story. He didn't really. And I'm like, what are you talking about? My whole life I've been a doormat. Literally, I've been a doormat my whole life. I don't know what you're talking about. And that conversation I saw in my head so many times throughout the next several years and still was like, he's so wrong. He's so wrong. But now I can see what he saw in me.
What did he see?
I think he saw, even though he didn't really know my story, like he saw me going to college. He did know about my schooling. He saw how persistent I was in what I had to do. Like I worked this job from 5 in the morning to sometimes 6 o'clock at night and then drove an hour and a half back to Sacramento. And then I still had my college courses, which he had several classes with me. He saw me at the gym. We did Tough Mudder together. And I think he saw the piece of me I could never see. Even though I was doing those things, that's not how I viewed it.
What was the piece?
The strength, the determination. I want to be something. I want to be better.
Yeah.
And no matter who's pulling me down over here, I'm going to be at the top.
Yeah.
But I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I didn't see any of that. All I saw was this little girl screaming her way out of pain and anger and people telling me you're not good enough. So I was doing all of these things to get there, but I never felt like I was there. Never felt like I was on that path. But I just,
Did you feel
in
like
my mind, was doing one day at a time.
Did you feel like you were always in survival mode?
Yes.
Yeah.
Always.
It's a hard place to be.
Always in survival mode. And raising these kids pretty much by myself, other than I had a boyfriend, but I was raising them by myself, going to school again, working 12 hours a day.
Now, let's talk about when you healed and when that was. And I know it was through Jesus. So let's talk about that.
It was obviously started long before I actually realized it when the Arkansas people, pastor and that pastor's wife and other people in the church taught me more about Jesus. And I know they still think about a lot of those things because I do, but I wasn't healed enough. So that was the beginning without knowing. Then getting away from California, I moved here. I knew my parents were getting older. The job I was working at was because my sister, she was out of the cult. She hired me to be a project manager through my dad's company. So moving here was a decision that was easy because my family was here, even though I didn't have a relationship with my mom and dad really yet. And so I was able to come here and still take care of my kids. I had a job, and that job ended. It was construction once where it moved around. So I graduated. The job ended in February, actually. I finished my degree in April. I didn't even do my walk, even though I did have honors, and I really should have. But it was more important to me to just get where I needed to go and start working. And so I moved here. And that was a journey in of itself. It really took me being in my next relationship here figuring out that I had a lot of trauma, a lot of trauma. This man put me on a pedestal, made me feel like I was the most amazing person in the entire universe. But as people like him do, as soon as he had me and had me in his grasps, because he adopted all three Motherhood kids, and then we got married and got pregnant, even though I did tell him I didn't want any more. I was super scared of having another child with somebody else. He convinced me, like, no, like, this is your chance to start over. And yeah, he actually took out my IUD himself. So we were having a baby. And it wasn't until things got really bad. And I was really scared to tell the church. Like, I was heavily involved in church now, like learning who God truly was, finding a church here. I was really close with people there. I started serving at the church immediately. It's kind of my thing. I want to help other people. So I was leading a group and all of that. And when it got really bad, I went to them and I said, here's what's going on. I haven't told you guys this, but this is what's going on. And they tried to help. And it wasn't until he went to jail for hitting me finally, like there was a lot of stuff in between there. There's a lot to share, that I got to be on my own again and realized I've got to heal. Like, I don't know how I stayed with him this long, because once he had me in his grasp, it just slowly got
You
so
were
bad.
reliving your first marriage.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And being told I'm this, I'm that. The messages would look like this, literally in a 2-hour time span. You're effing this. You're a C. You're a skinny, scrawny, gross, blah, blah, blah. 2 hours later, babe, I love you. I miss you. Please answer the phone. Why are we doing this? I'm sorry.
God, that's got to mess with you psychologically.
Oh, yeah. It got bad. And then if I still wouldn't answer, went right back, not even probably 2 hours later, went right back to, you're a this, you're a that. Never want to see you again. I hate my daughter. The blah, 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 blah. That was the cycle. But then I'd let him back. And then it would start all over again. And so when he finally went to jail, because trust me, before that, we called the cops many times. And again, it just felt like I was reliving everything. I'd call the cops and they'd go, sorry, you're married. We can't help you. He can destroy the property. He could stab the walls right next to you, which he would do. And we can't do anything because he can destroy his property. You need to go file a TPO. And I would try, and it would get denied because he was not physically strangling me. And so until I caught it on video that he hit me, nobody would help.
Yeah.
Nobody. So I felt stuck, super stuck, till that happened.
So you divorced him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's talk about when you finally started healing. And,
Counseling.
And then your healing got you to where you are today. And you have a really great title. You're the business development. You're the assistant vice president of sales for a really big insurance company here in Arizona and Nevada. And you help other business professionals develop their businesses, which that's amazing. But you had to heal to get there.
Yep. So I enrolled in some counseling immediately. Once we had that break, I knew it was my only time. Because when you're in that cycle, you can't heal. You can't heal. It was only when he couldn't access me anymore that I felt like we had the freedom to do these things. I got into counseling immediately. Now, he was still stalking me. He went to jail multiple other times after that for stalking. So I still had some of that I had to work through, and court and all those things. But counseling was my first thing where I got to talk to somebody about trauma that I didn't realize was trauma. And they were able to like show me, this is why you're feeling this way. This is why you've done this. Is why you're repeating this pattern. And I'm like, whoa, okay. This makes sense, right?
So the first key was just being educated about trauma.
Being educated, realizing what I was going through, what it was, the cycle, what it was. And it wasn't just all, and I say it like I'm so dumb for taking him back. I'm so dumb. I say those things, but it really wasn't all about that. It was about now knowing, right, the traumas that do things to you and not feeling like you have a safe place to go. You can't leave because you're not safe. So having to learn like all of those things and the whys behind it. So that was my first step to healing. But then realizing there was other people that had been through this. Maybe not the cult necessarily, but seeing documentaries and stuff. And that's why I feel like it's important to get these out, because until I started seeing documentaries, even though they made me cry, I'd put myself in their shoes. It was eye-opening that this is what people need to see, because you don't realize that it's out there. It is out there. It's happening under our noses all the time. And girls you may see in the grocery store, little signs, little things. You don't know what they're going through. And I remember, just going back, my aunt saying to me one time, I remember I'm pretty sure it was volleyball. I remember her looking to me saying, and again, at this time, she didn't know what I was going through at home. She said, "You're so mean to him." And I'm like, outside of my home was the only safe place that I didn't have to do what he said. I didn't have to get on my knees and say whatever you would like me to do. It was like, I wasn't as kind to him outside the documentaries and seeing all those things. I was like, wow, I have so much to learn about myself and how to manage those things, how to teach my kids to stand up for themselves. And so I just went on a learning journey about myself and watching videos, listening to narcissistic podcasts about abuse and all of that stuff. And that helped me in my career because I didn't have any confidence in myself. Like, I didn't have a full-time job and I had no career at that point when he went to jail. I was a notary for the industry I'm in now. And so I knew a little bit about it, but somewhere along the lines, with God's help, because I wouldn't be where I'm at today at all, I literally just said, "Help me." And when I didn't know what I was doing, he stepped in, because I still can look back and go, I have no idea how I'm here. But I would pray a lot, and I just would take those steps. I approached a company and said, I want to do this. I want to be a marketing rep, which is the first step to being where I'm at. Manager, sales manager, you start as a marketing rep. I want to be a marketing rep. I know I can do it. Just give me the opportunity. I worked for them for 3 months, and then they put me into that position. And it was just one step after the other, and me taking those steps and walking through the open doors that God allowed. But it wasn't like the first door. I still had a healing journey, learning who I was, but I worked hard at it, and that's all I could say. Like, it was really just a lot of work, and God opened the doors for me.
A lot of trust and faith.
A lot of women behind all those prayers, for sure, as well.
Yeah. Wow. Now you have a healthy relationship, right?
Yeah.
And the healing never stops. Healing
Yes.
is always ongoing. Lots of faith and trust in God, and just looking forward, not backwards.
Yep.
Yeah.
One day at a time.
It's a beautiful story, Amanda.
Kind of ugly, but it's beautiful at the end.
Yes, it's a beautiful story because you survived it and you persevered. And there's a lot of people that don't know how to, so they just end it.
Yeah. And I think that I would say, if I look back, there's so many moments that, had I not been who I was, and if my kids weren't the most important thing in my life, because I see other people that have gotten out of the cult, and the fact that you think you're dead, that's what they call you. They call you dead. You're not allowed to be spoken to. You're dead to them. You're going to hell. A lot of them ended up in a drug-ridden life. And I think that's where I would have ended up had I not been so worried about losing my children and my determination to succeed.
Yeah, so you had something to look forward to. That's amazing. I'm going to ask you 3 questions.
Okay.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
See, 5 years. I'll be 47 in 5 years. I really hope at that point in time I'm not struggling with my career today, right? It's one of those careers that you're constantly hustling. I want to see a calmer version in my life that I can just enjoy my grandkids and my kids and my story. I don't want it to be all for naught. I want to, somewhere in there, be able to have enough, which God always provides, to have both. I want to help others, but I also want to be able to financially have fun things to do with my kids and grandkids and be able to see all of them. I know they're all not going to end up in the same spot, and it's not fair, but so I want both. I know God will provide those things, but that's where I want to be in 5 years. I want to help other people really not go through those years of scraping by, but not just financially, emotionally. Because I had no emotional capacity to even see what I wanted in 5 years. I was just hoping to get through that day.
I think you do that on a very graceful level, even now with some of the business owners you work with. You bring in speakers and they say, how do I do that? And you say, whoa, let's focus on step 1. You build them up personally and professionally to get to that capacity. That's good. That's great. I know working with sometimes realtors can be tough. I'm sure there's people that you do enjoy working with. There's some professionals that you really do enjoy working with that actually give you some
Yeah.
kind of fulfillment, right?
Oh, for sure. A lot of them, honestly. It's still just a grueling industry just because you can work with one client. Me, it's a little different because I don't mind working with the newbies. I had one of these big top agents at the bowling tournament. He said something about my clients, and I said, no, what? He said something about only working with the top dogs. And I said, no, I work with everybody. And he said, why do you do that? That's dumb. And I was like, not for me. For me, it's fulfilling because I was once here. And who's going to help that person get to here if everybody that knows what they're doing only works with the top dogs? And he's like, well, that's interesting. And I just internally was like, I'm proud that I take my time with these people that only may do one deal in 6 months. So you might work with somebody for 6 months before you even get a dime, which is really only when a file closes, right? And so it does feel like a lot all the time, but it's still fulfilling. I love my clients. If there's somebody I don't want to work with, I won't. Honestly, there's times where I've had, only if you come to dinner with me, I'll send you a deal. Well, then I don't need to work with you. That's not how I work. So yeah, it's definitely fulfilling. It's not my story fulfilling, but it's still, in a way, I'm helping those people that need help.
Yeah, and that's what matters. Second question, knowing what you know today, what would you go back and tell your 20-year-old self?
Ooh, at 20, gosh. That it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's hard to say I want to stop myself from being back into a relationship, or even at that time, going back to the guy I just left, because then I wouldn't have my daughter. There's things that I'm like, if I did that, then this. But ultimately, I guess to solve a lot of it, I would tell her all of the things that the cult was wrong in, so it's not stuck in my head, to keep me stuck in that place where if you do this, you're going to hell. You're going to go to hell anyway. All those things, because I think that played a big part in, if I can say it, a mind, right? But that it's all going to be okay. Just keep being you, because the cult is a lot about making sure you're not you.
Yeah.
They didn't like a lot of the questions I had, even when I was still in it. Before I had to get married, I would ask things like, why can't we talk to them anymore? I don't understand. Why is that such a bad thing? They're still our family, though.
Trying to make
They're
sense
still our
of it
blood.
all.
They didn't like that.
Yeah. Wow. My last question, and I'm looking forward to this one from you.
Oh, boy.
What does success mean to you?
Oh, I think for me personally, I know success can look a lot of different things for a lot of people. And for a while, success for me was outwardly, I had to look like I had it all because I don't want everybody else to win. I didn't want them to win in what they thought about me. Now it's happiness. Success is happiness. My kids being happy, my kids not going through what I went through because I was successful, not alone, God. I was successful in not allowing those things to change who I was. Because I can see what happened to other people with the drugs and their life and where they're at, I never went down that path. Like, I was offered stuff all the time at some points. And in my mind, I was like, if I do this and I lose my kids, what would I do? I don't think I could survive. Like, I would have killed myself. So that's, for me, that is success. Being where I'm at now today, having it all behind me, and I don't care what anybody in the cult thinks anymore of me. I don't care at all. There was a while I was like, I can't talk about the cult. I don't want them to think I'm talking about them because I don't want that relationship, if they ever should decide to talk to me again, to be severed.
Yeah.
Because that was such a fear. Like, I've had such abandonment issues with that. And at some point I was like, who cares? Who cares? I need to tell my story. I need to help those people that are going through this. And if they don't ever want to talk to me again.
It not only gives you strength, it gives that other person strength.
Yeah. So for me, that is my success, is to be where I'm at, knowing I could have taken such a different path. It would have been the easier path, to be honest, right? Like, in some ways, because I could have not dealt with the pain. I could have just done whatever I wanted.
But that's not you, Amanda.
No.
You are strong. You are persevering. And I want to say thank you very much for sharing your story. It's a great story. I'm sure somebody out there is going to listen to it and say, if she survived it, so can I.
I hope so. Thank you for the platform.
Yeah. Where can people find you?
Oh, I do have an Instagram that I will start posting again on. It's called leave_toxic_relationships. I realized that was my avenue when I would struggle. I would post on there anything that was in me, whether it was like a moment I struggled or a story would come to my mind. And so I would just post on there. And so that's some people message there sometimes and they say, oh my gosh, I needed that. And so, yeah, that would be a good avenue.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, Amanda, thank you again for coming on the show and for gracefully sharing your story. I
Thank
definitely
you.
appreciate it. It's been an honor to sit here and listen to it.
Thank you.
All right, guys, until next time, see you in the next episode.